up as a kid. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from.
Now, since we're on the topic of defenses, how good would the Las Vegas Raiders defense be this upcoming NFL season in 2020? Now, when you look at the Las Vegas Raiders defense, ask yourself this. What is going to be the strength of this defense? And I think the strongest part and the best part of this defense is how good this defensive line is. Now, this defensive line has a lot of depth and a lot of talent. Defensive tackle Maurice Hurst had 3.5 sacks last year. A lot of people feel he can end up being a breakout player on this defensive line for the Raiders this season. And he's really good against the run. You also got Jonathan Hankins. You got Malik Collins. You got P.J. Hall. Then you got defensive ends Clelin Ferrell, who had 4.5 sacks last year. You had rookie last season, Max Crosby, who had 10 sacks as a rookie. 10 sacks. And I knew Max Crosby was going to be a sleeper coming out of the 2019 NFL draft, but I didn't predict him to be that good last season. I had Max Crosby around 5, maybe 6 sacks as a rookie. But if I was to tell you I was expecting Max Crosby to have 10 sacks in his first season in the NFL, I would be lying to you. And like I said, I knew Max Crosby was going to be a really good player coming out of that draft class. He was my biggest sleeper in the 2019 NFL draft class. And he outplayed Clelin Ferrell. And Clelin Ferrell was drafted several rounds above him. So Max Crosby has a bright future. Max Crosby, based on what he did last season, having 10 sacks, he probably should have at least 15 sacks this season. Then you also got Arden Key as well. Then the linebacker position. You got Nick Kowalski and Corey Littleton in free agency. Now, Nick Kowalski is pretty solid. And you got Corey Littleton, who is the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. So when you look at this front seven should be really solid. Now, the biggest question concerning this Las Vegas Raiders defense going into this season is, how good will the secondary be? Now, the secondary for the Las Vegas Raiders hasn't really been all that great over the last few seasons. Well, they have addressed that this past offseason. Prince Amukamara, you draft Damon Arnett, the rookie out of Ohio State, who I feel deserved to go in the first round. Like, Damon Arnett was getting a lot of undeserved hate during the NFL draft process. Like, a lot of people were nitpicking on Damon Arnett, saying that he wasn't fast enough, didn't have the lateral quickness and things like that. But when you watch Damon Arnett play for Ohio State, I saw a physical corner who isn't scared to make a tackle and isn't scared to jam these wide receivers and press these wide receivers every single play. I saw a guy who was almost just as good as Jeff Okudah. And I believe that the Las Vegas Raiders made probably one of the best selections in the NFL draft by taking Damon Arnett. So, I mean, I think Damon Arnett is going to be a really good player at the NFL level. I thought the Las Vegas Raiders knocked it out of the park when they drafted him. A lot of people felt it was a reach, but I felt it was a great selection. Then you got Trayvon Mullen. And Trayvon Mullen had a really good second half of his rookie season. A lot of guys like to bring up how he shut down Tyreek Hill, and Las Vegas Raiders fans make sure I didn't forget that. That's why I wrote that down. He absolutely shut down Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill only had 2 catches for 19 yards on Trayvon Mullen. Absolutely shut him down. Then you got Amik Roberson, who a lot of people are really high on. Then you got safety Jonathan Abram, who basically only played I don't even think he even played that much. I think he only played like a game, and then he got injured. And he was out for the season. So you got him coming back. You got Demarius Randall. You got Jeff Heath as well in free agency. So when you look at this Las Vegas Raiders defense, this is a defense that should be way, way better than what it has been the last few seasons. And one thing that I really like about this Las Vegas Raiders defense is how good they are up front on the defensive line. If the defensive line is going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback this season like it should be able to, that's dramatically going to help out that secondary, because when you have a good defensive line and you got guys like Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell who can constantly get pressure on the quarterback almost every single play, that's going to help out the secondary, because then those guys aren't going to have to be in coverage for that long. A good example is the San Francisco 49ers defensive line. When you look at what Nick Bosa was able to do last season for them and how good that defensive line was, that secondary didn't really have to cover for all that long. So when you have a good defensive line that's constantly able to get pressure on the quarterback, that's going to help out the secondary a lot. And another thing that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to the Raiders defense was, although they weren't great against the pass, this was a defense that was one of the best defenses in the NFL when it comes to stopping the run. They were 6th in the NFL last year in rushing yards per game allowed, only allowing 98 rushing yards per game. Now, this Las Vegas Raiders has a lot of things they have to improve on the defense side of the football. Last season, they were one of the worst teams on third down, getting teams off the field on third down, and getting stops inside the red zone. They allowed teams to convert on third down 42% of the time, which was 26th in the NFL, and they were the worst red zone defense in the NFL. They were 31st in the NFL in red zone scores allowed with 67%. So the Raiders are going to have to improve that, and I think that they will with an improved secondary and how good this defensive line should be. And this Las Vegas Raiders defense, if this defense is able to just be a little bit better than what it has been over the last 3-4 seasons, this probably could be a playoff team because they have a really good offense. The only thing is that this defense can't really get key stops when it matters the most. And when you look at the pieces that they added in free agency, you bring in Nick Kowalski, you bring in Corey Littleton, you bring in two linebackers that are really solid in coverage, especially Corey Littleton. Like, Corey Littleton is really underrated. When we mention some of the best linebackers in the NFL, I think Corey Littleton deserves to be mentioned in that category. Now, is he one of the best? Maybe not, but I think he deserves to be mentioned in the category of some of the better linebackers in the NFL. It's not linebackers that can cover at an elite level like Corey Littleton. So Corey Littleton is also going to improve that pass defense as well. And Jonathan Abram, I mean, this is a guy who can make you pay from running routes across the middle of the field. And when you watch Hard Knocks from last season with the Raiders following the training camp that the Raiders had, Jonathan Abram was a favorite of John Gruden. John Gruden was absolutely in love with Jonathan Abram. So the fact now that he comes back fully healthy, that's also going to improve this Raiders defense. And I wonder how good this Raiders defense could have been if Jonathan Abram never got injured. So, I mean, this is a Las Vegas Raiders defense that, although they haven't been great over the last couple of seasons, I really think that this could be the year that maybe they turn the corner. And I think that if this Raiders defense is able to play up to at least be in the top 15 or top 16 or top 17 defense in the NFL, they may be good enough to get into the playoffs. And I mean, when you look at the rest of the defenses in the AFC West, I mean, you got the Chiefs, who had a nice turnaround on the defense side of the football the second half of the year, which was a big reason for the Super Bowl run. You got the Chargers, who probably have, arguably, on paper, the most talented defense in the NFL. I mean, who else? You got the Denver Broncos with Vic Fangio. You got Bradley Chubb coming back. So you look at a Raiders team that has some catching up to do on the defense side of the football in terms of getting caught up to where the rest of the teams in this division are on the defense side of the football. But I think maybe this could be the year that the Las Vegas Raiders finally have a turnaround on the defense side of the football, because I don't think this Las Vegas Raiders defense can be as bad as they have been going into this year with the acquisitions that they made this offseason. So, I mean, I know it's easy to say that this Raiders defense isn't going to be good based on how bad this defense has performed over the last few seasons. But, I mean, not every team is going to be bad for a long time. Eventually, some teams are going to have to break the mold, and I think the Las Vegas Raiders could finally break the mold on defense. I think this could finally be a defense that's actually going to be able to get stops on third down, get stops inside the red zone, and create turnovers. So I'm really high on this Las Vegas Raiders defense going into this season based on what they have did on paper. Now, I mean, will they be able